For this assignment, Yixuan and I chose the book. When I grow up, I want to be a list of further possibilities. We looked through the list, and frankly, the name just stood out to us instantly. I mean, after all, everyone our age wonders where and how life will throw them. Each of us has some sort of expectation for ourselves, or from others, or from each other. So that's why we decided to go with this one out of all the others in the list. This is the quote that I chose. Do I love my mother? Do I have to forgive in order to love? Or do I have to love for forgiveness to even be possible? To be honest, my first impression of the book wasn't exactly the best. It's not the kind of literature that I usually engage with. The language felt too flowery and just a little bit too poetic for my liking, and it's not it's not really easy to explain, but it didn't really hit me just when I first opened it and I read through the first few poems, I guess. But the more I read, the more like quotes began to stand out to me and make sense to me, and slowly connection between me and the text kind of started to build. It's clear that Chen Chang expresses his complicated relationship with his mother and his family in the whole in the book, and how exactly it shaped his childhood. He writes, when my mother slapped me for being dirty, diseased, led astray by Western devils, I cried, 13, already too old to male for crying. This quote really resonates with me as someone who's an immigrant, who's also bisexual, and who had expectations for a perfect child or a perfect woman from my family, and those particularly are really deeply rooted in my culture. My mother isn't particularly homophobic, but when I first came out to her, she said, maybe it's because you spent too much time here in Canada? Because that was her first thought. She had the exact expectations of me that someone who would grow up in Ukraine was for some reason supposed to be turned out supposed to be straight. And I think that to him as well as to me, making jokes about this kind of thing when your family doesn't really understand you or who you want to be, the humor becomes another way of surviving harm without completely erasing it. It took a while for my mother to accept me, not even to accept me, but to see me for who I am. I know I could never come out to most of my extended family for the same reason. Many of them just refuse to see me for who I am, no matter what I do or what I say. Like, when I first got my eyebrow pierced, I remember my father refused to speak to me for a week because he was denying the truth. He was too scared to face it. It just didn't exist to me. Didn't exist to him, I mean. Yet after everything that has happened between us yesterday or a year ago, today he still called me to tell me that I had to buy eggs and buckwheat, which is a Ukrainian grain. Um, and that is why another quote stood out to me for this exact reason. I should pick up the phone and call my mother, ask her about her little vegetable patch out back. Just as Chen Chen says, the domestic rhythms between family members don't disappear after we scream or hurt each other, after we refuse to live under the same roof, after all the betrayals, something ordinary and loving still remains between us. It's sort of like a never-ending cycle that many families, especially families of immigrants, go through. It's just we hate and we love with the same passion. Honestly, I just wish my family had the same passion for healing and understanding between us, besides the constant arguing. Which is, it brings the question, can forgiveness coexist with truth? That's the question I keep asking myself, and that's the question Chen Chen asks himself throughout the entire book. That is why the quote I specifically chose was the one that couldn't leave my mind after reading. It felt very personal to me just instantly, even though it's a very simple one. Now, as I said, I don't really have a bad relationship with my mother. We had some bad moments between us, but we've grown a lot, and we've changed a lot throughout the years. But I do have problems with my grandmother on my mother's side. On my mother's side, sorry. And when I first read the quote that I chose, it really brought me back to a question that I've asked myself ever since I was young, ever since I realized that love itself can sometimes be questioned. Me and my grandmother, we had moments of conflict. she has hurt me sometimes violently, but also we had moments where she genuinely cared for me, where she left her job just to care for me as a baby. And even if she forgets what she's done because of her age. So when Chen asks, "Do I have to forgive in order to love?" it feels like he's naming the confusion that I've felt for years. On the slide here, you can see that I have a lot of missed calls and missed messages from my grandma. Sometimes it gets confusing, the feelings that that I feel for her, and how I want to feel after everything that happened between us. I did not get closure with her, and I did not get any sort of, let's just say, understanding from her for what I've experienced through, like, from my side of our relationship. So this is what our daily conversation looked like, pretty much. Still, just like Chen, I don't have a clear answer, and I don't think I've ever will, for the question is, do I have to forgive in order to love? But I think with families, everyone sort of decides for themselves. I feel like I'm slowly forgiving with each year passing by, even though it took me so many years to heal. And like I said, I didn't get closure, probably will never get understanding. I think I'm past that now. I'm past thinking about what happened and what could have happened or what could have been between us. Because in the end, I think we can all sit in a chair, question our lives forever, question our relationships forever, or we can move forward. Maybe love and forgiveness can exist in motion, not as a conclusion, but as a continual translation between people and selves. I think when it comes to family, it's all about how you choose to treat them in the end. Because they're people, and they're also, it's their first time living just like us, and they can make mistakes. And even though sometimes they don't say sorry for their mistakes, we can choose to be a better person than them. And I think that's what's important in the end.
Hi, I am Yixuan. I chose a quote. The train is an accordion, playing the silence of adult waiting. The train is a giant ant, wearing an exoskeleton of polite faces peering out. From Chen Chen's poeme, In Search of the Least Abandoned Constellation. I felt a shock of recognition.
What?
These are not just beautiful images, they feel true to life. The first metaphor connects to sound, or the lack of it. An accordion makes music by being pushed and pulled. This perfectly describes the train's movement, but the genius is the contradiction. The accordion is playing the silence. It captures the atmosphere of a commuter train perfectly, a crowd of adults together. Yet no one is really talking. They are lost in their own thoughts, tired and waiting. This adult waiting is quiet, heavy, and full of its own unspoken stories. The second metaphor is about vision and society. I remember wondering, why did Chen Chen choose a giant ant? A worm is long and would also fit the shape of a train. But then it hit me. KO! Ants, like humans, are social creatures. They live in huge, organized colonies. The train is like a colony on the move. The phrase, an exoskeleton of polite faces, is incredible. An exoskeleton is a hard shell that protects an insect. For us, our polite faces are that shell. We wear them to protect ourselves, to fit in, and to avoid showing our real feelings. But this protection is also a kind of isolation. We are all peering out from behind our own masks, silently watching each other. For me, these lines are deeply connected to identity and social pressure. They explore how we learn to hide our true selves to survive in society. This reminds me of another line from the poem that made me laugh. How will our child be a doctor, Fay, or lawyer now? Support us when we are old. I laughed because this is so familiar to me. I come from a classic Asian family. My father is a doctor, and my mother is a businesswoman. It's almost a template. And here I am, choosing to become an animator.
Wow.
I often think, why didn't I study business or become a lawyer? Reading Chen Chen's poem, I see myself in that train carriage, wearing my own polite face, navigating the silence and expectations, trying to find my own constellation.